More Than Rich podcast. Today, we're joined by Alan Lazaros, a man whose life was forever changed after a near-fatal accident at 26. At the time, Alan had all the external markers of success, money, status, and a promising career in tech. But he found himself questioning the deeper meaning of it all. This pivotal moment led him on a journey of personal growth and self-improvement, eventually becoming the co-founder and CEO of Next Level University, where he helps people align their passion with purpose and reach their highest potential in life, love, health, and business. Alan, welcome to the show.
Nice intro, man. Strong work. I appreciate it. I always want to start with gratitude. I will end with gratitude as well at the end. I'm really grateful to be here. I started listening to podcasts 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago. I'm going to be 36 in November. And that car accident that really changed my life happened when I was 26. And I started listening to podcasts after that, and they really helped me reconstruct a better direction. And that's what we are here to do, man. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can get a bunch of gems from that. You know, I want to turn those bad experiences into good ones.
That's always the goal.
So I usually like to jump into people's background, but this is a pretty compelling story. So we'll just jump around the place and get into the hardest questions. What's been the most fulfilling aspect of helping others, and how has it shaped your success?
The amount that I get in terms of, well, so I think we all have a unique purpose or calling or mission. Do we choose it, or does it choose us? So there's that existential sort of question there. Mine has always been, and I've sort of reflected, and I don't know if I chose it or it chose me, but I believe in potential, maybe more than anyone in the entire world. And every upside has a downside. So when I was a kid, I would always I steered every conversation into goals and dreams. I had so many freaking dreams.
Relatable.
And the most meaningful part of helping other people, so I have 26 people on my roster currently, all business, in my business coaching. I also coach relationships with my beautiful girlfriend, Emilia. We've been doing that for 4 years now. So couples. And people all over the world, all different backgrounds. And I started 10 years ago mentoring for free. And I did that for like 2 or 3 years. And, you know, I was a speaker and quote unquote thought leader and all that. And then I met up with Kevin, who's been on the show, and I started actually coaching more officially. I did fitness coaching and mindset coaching and peak performance coaching. I did a little bit of life coaching. And then I was a business consultant. And then I was a business coach. And I've been business coaching for about 3 years now. But ultimately, the most meaningful part has been just seeing people be more fulfilled. Because at the end of the day, people come to me and they say, I want to achieve this goal. And what I do is very simple. It's simple, but not easy. I break down the metrics necessary to achieve that goal that you have to track to stay on track. And then the habits necessary. We do habit tracking. Kevin, who's my business partner, that's been on your show, he and I have been tracking habits for me 9 years, him 7 years. And so it's metrics, habits, and then identity. The identity piece is self-concept. This is the inner work. This is I want to achieve XYZ, but I don't identify as an achiever. Even when we first came on, I said, oh, I hear from Kevin, you're a rapper. And you're like, well, yeah, I mean, I rap, but I don't know if I'm a rapper. And so that's the identity work that we would work on. So ultimately, the most meaningful thing has been seeing people achieve their goals and dreams, achieve things they never believed were possible deep down. And most importantly, they're very fulfilled. I think fulfillment, feeling fulfilled as a human being internally is the real underneath reason I do what I do.
Man, it's funny you said that too, because like the thing that somebody could know you for is like so subjective, right? Like they could know you for something that you don't really take serious, but it's like what they consider you the best at, or what they hold you to a standard for. Like everybody knows you for something different. Am I wrong on that?
No, we have we have reputation, and then we have character. I think character is who you are when no one's watching, who you are and what you do when no one's watching. And you only have one character, who you are, who you really are. And then you have reputation, right? Some people see me as an engineer. Some people who knew me in college see me as a party animal. Some people see me as this intellectual, esoteric genius weirdo. Some people see me as a business coach, right? So I think branding is you want to be seen in a certain light. It's what people think about you and say about you when you're not there. But branding is more reputation. I always see it this way. You know, Apple has a brand, but working for Apple, I have a close roommate in college who works for Apple, and I can't really talk any more about it apparently, but ultimately he has a different view of Apple than the outside in looks different than the inside out. And one of my sneaky goals in life, for lack of better phrasing, is I want the inside out and the outside in to be the same. That's what I'm trying to merge. This little framework called the 3 circles of the ego. The outer rim is what you want others to believe about you. It's like brand. And then the next layer in is what you want to believe about you, the lies we tell ourselves about ourselves. And then the inner circle is who you really are. Yeah, go ahead.
No, when you were talking about like character, right? I can imagine somebody listening that might be triggered that like could negatively feel like, man, I don't feel positively about my own character, right? Like maybe they're triggered to things that they've done wrong in the past. But can you like speak to how even just the morality of feeling bad is like not a permanence of your character? Like you can still change and improve, you know?
Yeah, so there's a difference between I did something bad versus I am bad. And that's the difference between identity and behavior. And what's interesting is this is getting esoteric already.
I love
Kevin
it.
Kevin told me I was going to like this. This is good. Okay, this is awesome. So big existentialist. I remember one time I called us philosophers. He's like, really? I said, well, yeah, I guess, right? So let's philosophize for a second.
Love it.
All right, so we have this self-concept, and apparently anywhere between age 2 and 5, we start to self-concept and individuate. We try to figure out, we look in the mirror for the first time, we say, okay, that's me. That's me. And if you've ever seen cats do this, they like look in the mirror and, oh, okay, so this is my paw then. Interesting. So that's self-concept. And I think self-concept is one of the most important things in the entire world. If you've seen the Inside Out movies, Inside Out 1 or 2, the second movie does a really good job of helping people understand self-concept, which is just belief about self. And so to your point, someone who might be triggered saying, ashamed of something from your past. The irony of that is that I think you should tie your self-concept to your behavior and you shouldn't. Let me explain. When I first got in the self-improvement space, I studied every freaking book and all that. And I went down the rabbit hole, Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and Og Mandino and Napoleon Hill and just all the speakers and blah, blah, blah. And as you learn and grow, you realize that a lot of it is bullshit, quite frankly. And a lot of it has a purpose, but none of it is the whole spectrum. Everyone's selling ice cream, but they're all selling their own flavor of it. And so I'm trying to explain ice cream. And yeah, I have my own flavor, but I'm trying to like kind of give all the different flavors. So, so when it comes to self-concept, people come to me, they say, well, you shouldn't tie your self-worth to, don't tie your self-esteem to your physique. And don't tie it to your work. And don't tie it to what car you drive or what home you live in. Don't tie it to your intimate relationship. Well, don't tie it to your bank account. And don't tie it to whether or not you're in debt. And eventually you just reach this point where you realize, okay, listen, what exactly am I supposed to tie my self-esteem to? And the truth is, I think human beings tie their self-esteem to how much they grow and contribute through integrity and authenticity. And I think that looks different for all of us, but the principle remains the same. And so for anyone out there who feels like they were a bad person or are a bad person, I think that sometimes good people do bad things. I think sometimes bad people do good things. I don't know if I would label good or bad, but what I would say is that you can always be a better person. And if you focus on trying to be a better person, I am a better person than I was at 26. This is Alan version 3.6. I'm an engineer, so I think in that number, I'm about to be 36 in November. And Alan 3.6 is more capable, more intelligent, more aware, more compassionate, more virtuous. I'm a better person than I was. Does that mean I was a bad person at 26? No. Statistically speaking, I would say definitely not. But I'm definitely significantly better than I used to be. And I ultimately think that that's how the world changes, is we all just try to get better. It's you versus your potential. It's not you versus anyone else.
So what would you think that maybe keeps somebody stuck in that, I don't want to say mindset, but maybe I am this way?
Lack of self-belief, lack of fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So a fixed mindset is, and there's a ton of research on this, but essentially it's unconscious. So prior to 26, so I had a tough car accident at 26. My father passed away in a car accident when he was 28. So this really messed me up. I was physically okay, fortunately, even though it was not a fender bender. It was definitely head-on collision. It was not good.
Damn.
But I was physically okay. Mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, it was my quarter-life existential crisis. And what I realized through that experience, both post-traumatic stress, double yellow lines, claustrophobia, I had some stuff I had to work through after the car accident, but post-traumatic growth was there too. What I realized is pre-26, I was very achievement-oriented, but I wasn't self-improvement-oriented. And so I flipped the script and I went into self-improvement. So I had a growth mindset when it came to achievement, but I didn't have a growth mindset when it came to self. And my goal in life was to achieve. It wasn't to improve self.
Curious
And what I realize now,
what you mean
go
by
ahead.
that? If you could elaborate just a little more, like
Yeah.
what do you mean by self?
So I grew up in a tough environment, lost my dad when I was 2, stepfather left when I was 14. Long story, but kind of lost 3 families by the time I'm 14 years old because my mom got in a fight with my aunt Sandy, who ostracized us from that side of the family. And so I never had any normal childhood.
Would you call it a feeling of abandonment a little bit?
For sure.
Got you.
For sure. But I wasn't conscious.
Got you.
So only in my 30s, so I started doing some therapy in my 30s. And I think the difference between a coach and a therapist, even though we're all kind of doing both, is I think coaching is about success, achievement in the future. And I think therapy is often about the past and the present and learning about you. Whereas I think coaching is often about learning the world and metrics and habits and structures and economy and how you build a business. And the identity is a piece of it, whereas therapy is more focused on studying yourself. And so I did a lot of therapy in my 30s, and I started to realize, okay, I rewatched the movie of my own life, and yes, absolutely abandonment challenges. So anyone who's out there feeling like they can't change, you absolutely can. And I know that doesn't work. You can't just, oh, well, you can. Oh, well, thank you so much. It's like people who give advice. It's like, well, I feel sad. Okay, well, just don't. Oh, thank you so much for that. That's super helpful.
But on that topic, despite all that turmoil, did you have any like actual happy memories that still stick with you?
Yeah. So there were bright spots for sure. There's certain, I grew up on a lake. I love the water. I fish. I had such a wonderful place that we grew up in. We used to call it a little piece of paradise. It was a private, big pond, small lake in Massachusetts. And to this day, it's a little piece of paradise. It's beautiful. And so nature and lightsaber battles with my friends and Star Wars and movies. And so, yeah, I had some fun for sure. My mom and stepdad did not get along. And so that was very tumultuous, for lack of better phrasing. And that's pretty much as I can give you on a public medium. But ultimately, there was a lot of learning. But there was also a lot of trauma. And I didn't understand that at the time. I mean, you're just a kid, right? So you're creating your self-concept unconsciously. You're not 14 going, oh, well, I think that means that I'm going to be an achiever.
But would you say that's spilled into your relationships as well?
100%. Yeah. So for me, and again, I want to be as clear as possible about this because I'm definitely an existential weirdo, and I used to not have the courage to say that because I think I used to try to fit in, and I just realized that that's not helping anyone, especially not me. So I'm definitely I would say as I've gotten older, I've realized that I'm on the very far extreme of most statistical bell curves, so, especially when it comes to intellect. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics, business, and finance, I call it STEMBIF. That always was super easy for me. Relationships were not at all.
Interesting.
So I'm an engineer and I think in numbers and formulas. I always have. And for me, I can't imagine not. If you rap like Kev, you most likely think in words and concepts. So there's 4 modalities of thinking. One of them is words and concepts. That's the most common. There's vision, pictures, and images. There's energy. That's very uncommon. And then math and formulas is the least common, which is why most engineers have high self-belief and low self-worth. Because socially, we're all weirdos, but we know how to build stuff and do stuff, and we can calculate.
Yeah, no, I would definitely put engineer at the bottom, for mine.
In terms of, for you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is really cool then, because you and I typically wouldn't get along unless we're both mature. And so you and I, when we were kids, we probably wouldn't get along and we wouldn't know why.
And it's funny.
Or one of us would completely lessen ourselves.
See,
Most likely me.
And I was also feeling like, just background wise, with an empath, like I didn't assume that you were going to be into numbers for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, I would say, and again, this is good. I don't look like an engineer, I don't think, typically. I would say that I joke. There's not a lot of Abercrombie model engineers. I was a fitness model, a fitness coach, and a fitness competitor for a while, and I realized that I looked like an idiot. And everyone deals with perception, right? So beautiful, my girlfriend, gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous, beautiful. People don't assume, oh, esoteric genius, right? People who wear glasses, they're automatically smarter in our consciousness, and it's all the cognitive biases. But ultimately, it would make sense that you wouldn't think that I was this way, right?
It's so funny. You're making me think about my self-conscious self right now. I mean, I don't even want to elaborate. I'm just like, dude, so many meetings where I know I should have dressed up, or I could wear glasses that I do wear, but I don't. Like, I don't want to change myself because I value my individualism so much, you know?
And I respect that, man. And I honestly, trying to contort who you are to try to please others, while I think there's a place for it, because obviously branding and marketing and sales are a thing and you have to show up as a professional, so I get it. However, if you overdo it, you're going to be deeply unfulfilled. And then you'll be successful but unfulfilled, and I've been there, man, and it sucks. So if you're your authentic self and it's your best self, I don't care if you're in a beanie like my business partner Kevin, or if you're in a button down like me.
Yeah. I've gotten so simple and minimalistic with it that I don't like care about outfits type of thing. So it makes me mad to be judged on something like that, because I don't even care what you're wearing, you know?
Yeah, unfortunately, and the truth of the matter is some people will judge you.
Yeah.
And the people that you want to have in your life hopefully won't. And there's a pro and con with everything. And so, yeah, maybe you'll get less business deals, but you'll also have more fulfillment, right? So we all have to make that choice.
That is hilarious. That's a great way to put it. You could just be like, be broke, bro. you could literally say that. I love it.
Well, Kev told me, because he sees my calendar, we're business partners, and we know. So he told me that this is going to be an awesome conversation. So I came in with an expectation of you being a good dude from someone I trust prior to seeing your outfit.
That's hilarious.
So, and again, would I have judged you? I don't think so. However, I do know our unconscious always does, right?
Yeah,
I look like a silver spooner. Look at my background. Right? I mean, I look like some privileged dude.
I love it.
And it couldn't be farther from the truth, right? So we gotta read more than just the cover, I guess.
It's a good point, and it also doesn't take away from your background or what you've been through to get to that. You know what I mean? Which nobody gets to see that. It's not like you're like, hey, look at all the turmoil behind that.
Yeah, man. I imagine you put pictures behind that of everything you went through to get it.
Jeez.
That would be a trip.
Yeah, just a dramatic web painted behind it.
Yeah, that would be a graphic novel, thriller, horror.
I love it. Love it. What was the hardest part of recovering from your car accident, mentally or emotionally?
Emotionally, because I never really talked much about my dad's death prior to 26. So after 26, it was my sort of, like I said, existential quarter life crisis. I'm going to reevaluate my existence. And I've been doing that ever since, honestly. However, before that, I wasn't living as consciously or as intentionally. And I actually, after my car accident, I did this thing where I would call people from my past and I would ask them questions about me to try to find my blind spots. And the metaphor I use for blind spots are, we have a Tesla, and that's not me trying to front of how awesome we are. It's a Model Y, and it does self-driving. It's called supervisor mode. So you have to be in the driver's seat, but it really does drive itself. It's awesome. They actually pulled back a little bit on that, unfortunately, because the one they originally put out, I mean, we drove from Massachusetts to South Carolina through 8 states, and I'm telling you, I had to stop this thing like 5 times. It was unbelievable. It did it all on its own.
Damn.
And now it's kind of this weird, you can do it on the highway, but it doesn't really self-drive, which annoys me. But anyways, the The front has 3 cameras, the back has 1 camera, and then each door, 4-door, has a camera. So there's 9 cameras total because there's one in the car as well. And I use this for blind spots. If a camera is occluded, it says occluded camera, beep, 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 warning, and it stops you from being able to use self-driving. Because if a truck's coming to the right and it can't see it, it's not going to be able to move out of the way. So it won't let you use supervisor mode unless all the cameras are clean. So we had to do pit stops and clean the cameras. And so I think in life that's a good metaphor, because we all have these blind spots and we keep driving off a cliff and then blaming the world, when in reality we just don't think accurately. We don't have accurate data, especially with mass media and all that stuff. So to bring this back to the original point, I called up my ex-girlfriend. Her name was Alyssa, and I was with her for 4.5 years, tail end of high school into college. And it was a very versatile time, obviously, tail end of high school and in college. Anyone can imagine. And I asked her questions. I said, "What did you notice about me? Is there anything about me that you don't like? Do you notice any blind spots?" And she said, "You never, ever, ever talked about your dad. No one in your family did. No one ever talked about your dad." Now, I think I know why that is, but again, I say this humbly. My real last name is McCorkle. So my birth father's name is John McCorkle, big Irish Catholic family. Jim, Joe, John, Jane, Joan, Jeanette. 6 J's, 5 siblings. And when my stepfather came into the picture, my stepfather is Steve Lazaros. And I took his last name, I think, around 6 or 7. And when we were trying to be the Lazaroses, we didn't really associate much with McCorkles. And so I think part of it was just, we don't talk about my dad because that's a reminder that my stepdad's not my dad. And I carried that right on through. And so, but after 26, after that car accident, I decided to reinvent myself and my life. And I decided to face every hard truth possible. And I decided to quit drinking and every vice, quit all the vices. And since then, it's been almost a decade, but I've quit all. I always joke, caffeine's my last remaining vice. I don't take it from me. I need it. But I quit all alcohol. I quit all drugs. I quit all pornography. I quit all of that. And it's not like any of that was necessarily a huge problem, although alcohol I did drink too much and too often. But I just decided to be the most virtuous man I can possibly be, because that's what I always would have wanted as a kid, as a male role model. And so anyways, rather than some soapbox, to answer your original question, emotionally it was the hardest, because after my car accident, I kind of had to face not only all my regrets, but all of the stuff that we didn't face as a family regarding my dad's death and who I actually am, and then losing families. I still to this day have never seen a single person from my stepdad's side. When he left at 14, I haven't seen any of them. I talked to him a little bit on Facebook Messenger, but you go through these things when you're a kid and you don't understand them yet. You just couldn't possibly. How in the hell was I supposed to understand that when I was 14? And then you rewatch the movie of your own life, hopefully, and then you go, okay, got it. Okay, that makes sense. And to me, that's really the goal, is Alan version 3.6 is going to rewatch the last 35 years of my life, and I am very blessed with a good memory. I get blessed or cursed depending on the memory, right? But I rewatch the movie of my own life every year, and I reinvest those lessons back into my 36th year. Because ultimately, Kev always says, you're so hard on yourself. And because I'm always saying how many terrible choices I made. I said, Kev, I don't think I made worse choices than most people. Statistically, I think I actually made pretty good choices. But the harder you are on yourself about your own poor choices, the more likely you're going to change them if you have a growth mindset and if you believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, adversity is just adversity. And that's a whole nother
you made me think
story.
Of the amount of shock I send myself just from thinking I screwed something up. I'll be like, did I? Oh, and just the feeling in itself, I'm like, oh my God, did I do something wrong? And oftentimes, dude, I worry about things that aren't even shouldn't even matter, which is so common. Also, if I had to choose between coffee and alcohol, we're going coffee the rest of our lives, right?
Hands down, 100%. 100%.
That
I'm
is
with you,
such an
brother.
easy choice, dude. I can't
Yeah.
believe people have to like choose both. Like, no, I don't know. It's just like a recipe for hypertension or something, in my opinion. But what were the worst fears after the accident, and how did you work through them?
You know, what I would have answered right after the accident is cars.
Mm.
uh, but in hindsight, the biggest fear is really not playing full out, facing mortality, like getting to the end and not reaching my potential, not maximizing my gifts. And I do think that the more gifted you feel, and I know we all feel, some people don't feel gifted. Some people feel neglected. They feel like, oh, why do I suck at everything? And why aren't I smart enough and all that stuff? I get it. Okay. I don't get it actually, but I get that I don't get it. For those who do feel gifted, it is this weird thing where it's awesome because you're super capable and you know it and you believe in yourself. However, it's a heavy ass weight because you're never even close to tapping your real potential. Kevin had the courage one time to ask me, "Are you proud of us?" And we have 1,850 episodes, a 19-person team. I have 26 clients I coach currently, episode a week every day, 7 episodes a week, and we have this. We're heard in 175 countries. All that is great. And he asked me, "Are you proud of us?" And I said, "I'm proud of you. I would say that I'm proud of the work we're doing. I'm proud of the way we make our revenue. But no, dude, come on. We're barely even scratching our true potential." And I actually think that. I used to be too much of a coward to share it, but I feel like we're at 2% of what we're capable of. And that's my actual truth. Is that insane? Yeah. And honestly, the truth is, and this is really uncomfortable to share, a lot of people would be blown away to get to where we are.
Mm-hmm.
We coach people that would love to get to where we are. That doesn't mean we're done. That doesn't mean that I'm like, way to go, guys. You guys are so awesome. Like, I hold the humility of, we are capable of so much more. It's not even funny. And so I think we're on a very, we're barely scratching our true potential. But that's also, maybe that's true. And I hold the duality of, I'm also proud of us for putting in a lot of work. I would say I'm very proud of the work ethic. I'm very proud of the way we serve. I'm very proud of the work we do in the world, because I used to sell industrial automation equipment and all that did was take jobs. And while I know that's going to happen with or without me, automation is a thing. I think if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. So I'm proud of the work we do in the world. Am I proud of me personally in terms of my output? No, we're capable of more. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to relate to that one. I'm thinking, like, I take pride in just doing what I can with the resources I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I relate. Yeah, hell yeah. Because I try to replicate everything I do for everyone else. So if I can do something for free or with limited resources or with nothing, it's like, now I'm the proof of concept. Go do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Resourcefulness, so important. I'm proud of Kev because he could have been nothing. He came from extremely humble beginnings, and I did too. And I think I think there's something to be said for someone who fights for what they believe in and who gives their all and is resourceful and who finds a way, but does it with integrity. Yeah, I mean, I think those are the things we all admire, even if we don't admit it, right? I think kids admit it.
The other thing I was going to say is, like, the fact that some people don't have to express their purpose and they just have it. Do you know what I mean? Like, some people are searching for it, looking for it every day. A lot of people are. But sometimes you don't even have to have that conversation with, like, a friend, because you're on the same, not trajectory, but you have the same intent to go somewhere. So it's kind of refreshing, though, that you don't have to have those kind of conversations. It's just a knowing.
Well, that goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is, do you choose your calling, or does your calling choose you? Do you even believe in a calling?
Yeah, how do you feel about fate and predestiny? Tell me.
Nice. What I would say is that all of us come in with certain natural inclinations. We all come in with strengths and weaknesses. It's the whole nature nurture debate.
Mm.
And I've actually wondered this for a long time. And this was probably around when I turned 30. I was thinking decades. So it's like I've got my, the first 10 years of my life were awful. No, the first 10 years of my life were childhood. The 20s were definitely just running amok and learning. And the 30s are about building. And I actually am excited. I think the best part of my career will be 50s, 60s, 70s. And I know I'm weird, so you don't have to feel that way. But anyways, the point that I'm making is it was in my 30s when I started to realize that not a lot of people believe in themselves. And this was really hard for me because when I was a kid, everybody had dreams. And everybody talked about their goals and dreams. I now realize that they were mirroring me because I'm always trying to talk about goals and dreams. Always. 24/7, 365. Like, I'll always find a way to bring the conversation toward goals and dreams and aspirations and potential. And I never knew that I was doing that before. That's just how I'm wired. I'm very future oriented. A lot of people are very now oriented.
My family hates that, by the way.
Okay, fair. Well, they won't like me, and that's okay.
I do the same
although
thing.
I never used to be okay with that, right? I'd be like, no. I like the now too. And
they call it idealistic.
Yeah. And they think you're out of your mind. I'm kidding. They think I am for sure. And in some ways, maybe I am. We'll see. But to answer your original question, the fate thing. I actually came to a realization that I had this executive admin that I worked with for a long time, and she doesn't believe in herself. And that became very clear over the years, that she was pretending to believe in herself around me. And then eventually it was, okay, well, you keep saying this, but only doing this. And I always say this, why would someone with level 10 self-belief have level 2 goals? A lot of it is inflated ego and self-worth. It's inflated self-worth. They're just talking. They're not intending. And when you get older and older and older, you realize, holy crap, all my friends were talking. Like, they didn't actually they weren't going to do any of that, turns out. They all said they would, and then over time they did. Not all of them, but most of them. And so I realized, okay, so they don't believe in themselves. They were mirroring me. They don't know how to build self-belief. They can't project into the future. They've done fMRIs in people, and some people, they can only envision a stranger, and other people can envision themselves. So some people really can. It's executive function, prefrontal cortex stuff. So some people have built the muscle to where they can see themselves in a decade.
Dude, you made me think. I get anxiety because I will see myself doing the thing later, so I don't have to get anxiety in that moment later. I'll just get it over with now,
So you can see yourself in the future.
Oh yeah, I will give myself the anxiety of being in that moment, like, completely, so that when it comes, I'm over it. Like, I already had it. I've already been here. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so that's a visionary.
Interesting.
So you can project, and they've done studies on this where some people can only project 2 years out, some people 4 years out, some people 8, some people 10, that kind of thing. And it's the whole chess master, right? It's a novice can think 2 to 3 moves ahead. No, a beginner 2 to 3 moves ahead, a novice, 3 to 5, amateur 5 to 7.
Sees the whole board kind of thing.
Yeah, and then grandmaster, you get to 12 to 15 moves ahead, and then eventually you can not even see the board, envision it in your head, and play 15 people and still win, which is wild. But that's just the brain has developed for chess. Now that's a metaphor for life, and so a Steve Jobs, for example, as much as please don't associate me with Steve.
No, love it.
Yeah, okay. Well, so he's a visionary, and we're all a warning and example, and obviously there's a lot of things that I would not condone. There's some things that are wonderful, which is the visionary part.
Yeah.
And so I've always been sort of a visionary, and I always could see my future, and I realize now that's weird. But to answer your original question, what was your original question? I'm so sorry.
Was that the pre-fate one?
Yes, fate. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so are we creating our own future, or are we predestined? And I think it could be both simultaneously. And predestined in the sense that I think when we're born, we're naked, scared, and ignorant. We don't know who the hell we are. However, we have a spiritual part of us that knows our true nature. And then we get conditioned to be a certain way, and we get farther and farther and farther from our true nature. And then I think we have an existential crisis at 26 in a car accident. No, I'm kidding. But I think what happens is we reach some form of existential crisis where we realize we're deeply unfulfilled, and then we start going back toward our true nature. And so I think social conditioning and enculturation forces us away from our true nature. So for me, I realized when I was younger that it wasn't safe socially to be an esoteric weirdo genius who I proved the textbook wrong one time and the whole class laughed at me. And then I brought it to the smarter math teacher and proved that it was right. And I realized, like, you know what? Being right is not the goal because it makes people hate you. So I'm just going to lock up.
You gotta let them come to that conclusion by themselves anyway, kind of just guide them toward it. Yeah.
Right. And so one thing I'll share too, I think this is playful and funny. When you're an engineering thinker and you think in mathematics, and a girl says, do I look fat in this? And you say, yes, at level 6 out of 10, that doesn't go very well. So you basically lock up yourself, like who you really are, even though that's what my brain actually says.
I'm being honest. You asked me for the truth.
I thought honesty was the best policy, right? Santa Claus isn't real. The tooth fairy either. The bunny's not real, right?
This is a good segue here because my next question was about to be about communication, right? Like trying to relate it to myself, but also tying in AI a little bit futuristic. So that being maybe your weak point, you could say, right? With all that intellect, you're maybe like, how do I communicate with people? How important is it, would you say, that communication in order to not just unlock business, financial, every type of success, like how just paramount is learning how to communicate in general, just knowing how to ask for things now in the modern world?
So I think it's 1/3 of the equation. So business it really comes down to 3 main things. And obviously you can oversimplify or overly complexify everything. And so you can spend your whole life studying business and not know it all. But I've broken it down into these 3 categories. The first category is metrics, systems, processes, org structure. And that's my jam. That's my genius zone. That's what I've done. Kevin didn't have almost anything to do with that, to be completely honest. And that's okay.
Does he follow it? Like, is that like a blueprint for him to follow or something?
Yeah, of course.
Got you.
Absolutely. Systems and processes and SOPs and all. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. But he comes to me, metrics and habits and all that. Okay. Then the second piece is products and services and innovation. So this is the branding, marketing, sales. This is the what do you sell? Products and services are the only 2 categories. When you hear someone say client, it's a service. When you hear someone say customer, it's a product. And so we have a journal, that's a product, but we have a podcast production company, that's a service. And then there's business to business, business to government, business to consumer. It all depends. But the third part of this matrix, this triangle, is people. That's the branding, marketing, sales. That's the who's your target demographic. That's the communication. And so I have these 25 impact points of effective communication that I created when I was coaching a man named Udit. He's an engineer from my alma mater, WPI. And I realized he had this app, right? He had this app where he was trying to bring more clinical trials to more participants. And he wanted to cut out the billions of dollars that pharmaceutical companies have to pay in order to make these things work. And I had this really freaking humbling moment that made me very sad because Udit is brilliant. And I know that, and other people know that, but they don't know how brilliant. And he was a roommate of mine in college. He lived in the apartment downstairs of me. So not roommate, but downstairs. And Udit's an engineer, and Udit's a good engineer. He understands all the math. I mean, the formulas and all that. And so coaching him was really cool because usually I spend most of the coaching explaining math. And I'm just going to be, I never used to say this because I was too much of a social coward, but the truth is, if you don't understand mathematics, it's going to be very hard for you to succeed in a world where everything is calculated. In the 21st century, picture a world without engineers. I mean, we wouldn't have this computer, we wouldn't have this microphone, we wouldn't have, what is this, Riverside. You can reverse engineer finish lines and outcomes in advance, and you can design things, but you can't do it without math. And so math is my favorite thing in the world. I know that I'm biased in that. Okay. So why am I saying all this? The third part of business is people. And if you can't effectively communicate, you aren't going to be able to win. Steve Jobs was not the smartest engineer. He was the best communicator.
Damn.
He was smart enough to understand the technical products and the engineers who he was leading, However, he was the best at marketing, branding, and sales and effective communication. And so Apple was created because Wozniak was the best engineer and Steve Jobs was the best communicator.
Damn.
And all companies come in a duo like that. So Kevin's a stronger communicator than I am, but I'm a much better engineer than he is. And so I've designed our company, which he admits publicly, which is great. Thank you for the humility, Kev. And he is the people guy. He's the relatable guy. He's the funny guy. He calls it the genius and the joker. And he's very bright too, by the way.
Someone's got to be able to translate the product, though. I agree.
100%. Right. And so he's like, Kev, he says, Alan, no one gets you, man. They can tell that you don't get them. And it's like, well, that sucks, man, because I'm trying to help. He's like, they don't care. They just know you don't get them. Dude, how can you help them with something that you don't struggle with? And so we've locked me away behind the scenes until
totally
recently.
Vouch for what you're saying too, because I have family too that smart in that aspect where that's where technically you might even consider them a handler, right? A company might hire somebody just to be watching you to make sure that they can communicate for you or just to sell your product. But it's typically always engineers that are like, dude, might even have agoraphobia, don't want to leave the house type of, mentality, super introvert. So I get it.
Well, Udit, I'll bring this back to Udit. Udit is brilliant and he has this great app, but I had to sit him down and say, Udit, you have to go find someone like me, man, because you can have the best app in the world and you're never going to beat someone who can communicate effectively. And as a matter of fact, the 25 impact points of effective communication that I've been using it. I actually track from 0 to 10 each category: storytelling and tonality and enunciation and all these different things. I created that because he asked me, he said, dude, in college, you were so good with people. You were so good with the ladies. Like, how did you do that? And I said, it's just effective communication. You have to understand how to articulate things in a way they understand it. So anyone can understand. Well, okay. So layer 1 is understand it yourself. Layer 2 is get someone else to understand it the way you understand it. And that's really hard when we're talking differential equations. So you have to really work hard on the way in which you articulate things so that other people get it. And if you can't do that, you can't influence. And if you can't influence, you can't sell. And if you can't sell, you can't grow a company. And if you can't grow a company, you can't have a big impact.
I love it because, dude, I have too many ideas. Like, I got apps that I can't even finish because I have too many ideas. But I'm talking to the point where I'll draw out the schematics, know how I want it to look, like very detailed. But yeah, it's good to know. I love it. You're trying to reiterate what it takes in the aspect of, the type of personality that it is and what holds them back as well.
Well, everything great in this world requires a team. You have to have a support system, and you can't achieve anything great without a great team.
Man, it's so
However, one person can make a team great, and that's the duality.
The other ironic part is if you don't have money, if you get money, you're just going to get a team. If you do have money, you still need a team at the end of the day. Like, so it's funny that as single solo as you want to be, it usually comes back to that outcome of needing it,
Well, think about even a film. I'm a movie buff. I love film. So, okay, there's the director of photography, the DP. There's the actors and the actresses. There's the orchestra that does the score. There's the editors. There's the animators. You can look at the credits on a film. It's unreal how much. And then there's the investors. There's the people, the executives of the company. There's bank, and they have to lend money, and then there's marketing and branding and sales, and there's distribution, YouTube, and all that. So everything requires a huge team. And if you can't influence people, you kind of can't manifest your dreams.
That's a
unless you want to be a soloist.
That's a good quote.
Thank you, brother. Unless you want to be a soloist and just. But even then, you're playing on an orchestra and you need to collaborate with other people. So, yeah, I don't think no one is capable of achieving their dreams alone.
Which comes back to full circle communication again.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And
Love
that's
it.
exactly it. Yeah. So either someone's going to find you because you're that good at what you do, and then they're
Yep.
going to orchestrate for you, or you're going to have to orchestrate your own life. But if you want to try to orchestrate your own life,
which is how
otherwise
it
you're
should
going to
be,
feel.
though.
What'd you say?
The idea of people finding you, that's the best case scenario, and how it should be, though, if you're doing authentic work, that's valuable to the world.
Yeah, and you have to show up and do the work before anyone cares in order for anyone to care. It's such an interesting thing, because if you're doing it to succeed,
yeah,
you have to realize, okay, well, if my motivation is success, I'm in trouble because I'm going to try to do something, no one's going to care, and then I'm going to have to keep doing it until someone cares. And then when people do start to find me out and care, I have to stay humble and not let it go to my head.
This is the whole purpose of passion right here. We're coming again, to why you have to do it, because you love it. That's the only reason. No other purpose that you should be doing it because this is what you want to do. Wouldn't rather do anything else. Everything else falls into place.
Yeah, you have to start there. Most people we talk about the 3 Ps, passion, purpose, and profit. Kevin might have talked about this, but when I was a kid, I went to profit first. So stepdad left, low income. Mom said, you're good at math. Engineers make a lot of money. You should, engineers are good at math. You should be an engineer. And I did, and that was true. 21st century computer engineer. Let's rock and roll. That was awesome. However, I wasn't as passionate about engineering. I worked for a company called Tyco Safety Products, and I remember it was a summer internship, and I was sitting in a dark room by myself designing circuits, and I was like, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? And I made great money. I made more money than any of my friends, and I was just like, ooh, this kind of sucks. And luckily I had a mentor. His name was JP, and I learned a ton from him. But I realized, you know what? I got to go to business. I got to do business. And I had planned on that anyway, because I looked it up back then. I don't know if this is still true. And this is way freaking back when the internet was not new, but this is probably mid 2000s. But I remember I looked it up. Engineering undergrad plus MBA combination, 80% of Fortune 500 company CEOs had that combo. And so I decided to do that combo. And so then I went into business. And business to me is, how do I take my engineering? Engineering is how you make the products and innovate and design and company structure, infrastructure. And then MBA is finance and strategic decision making and people and leadership, all that. And then my next is going to be neuroscience. I don't know when, but PhD most likely in some sort of neuroscience. What'd you say?
That's wild.
I think it's a cool combo.
I'm just like, you acted like that one's just no big deal. I'll just be that,
Well, I appreciate, I remember we were at Thanksgiving dinner, and my girlfriend and I are both going to I think she's going to do a PsyD. I'm going to do a PhD, but again, that's in the future. And we said it sort of nonchalant like that. And they're like, wait, what? And I think twofold. One, I don't want to come off as arrogant. I think that's a big insecurity of mine. However, I do want to be honest in the fact that I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do that.
I think it's more like, I'm confident that I can do anything.
I feel very confident I can do that. Yes. I intend on doing that. And Kev, he always says, dude, people say stuff. I told him this at one time. I said, Kev, I've never said I was going to go do something and then went to the beach. I playfully, he's like, dude, other people do that all the time.
Ted Cruz.
He said the difference between you and other people is when you say you're going to do something, you already reverse engineered it in your mind and intend on doing everything that it takes to do it. And I said, other people don't do that. He said, hell no.
Interesting. Man. I love it because I have that engineer mindset where I reverse engineer at the end also, just from that aspect, seeing the end goal. Some
people probably call you cocky, when in reality, you're just reverse engineering something they can't see yet.
Yeah, that's the whole, this guy knows everything. You know everything, right?
I know. Yeah, I get that all the time. And it's like, no, not everything. As a matter of fact, I know next to nothing compared to what there is to know.
To look,
Yeah.
Damn.
real quick, I want to share this with you. I did this once. I think this will be a breakthrough for your listeners. I did this with a client of mine. His name's Brandon. He's a team member now. And I said, Brandon, I want to really try to explain something in a new way. I said, do you believe that you can get Subway tonight? Subway subs. I don't know. Where are you from?
Texas, Austin area.
Okay, cool. So you guys get Subways down there?
I've been in one. Not that it's more like on above land, not under land, but yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay,
yeah.
So, no. I mean Subway, the subs, like the sandwiches.
Hilarious.
Subway
sandwiches. You said it plurally, but yeah, I got you. Yeah, we got Subway.
Cool. So I said, Brandon, do you think you could? How much do you believe, 0 to 10, that you could get Subway tonight for dinner? And it was like 4:00, and he said 10 out of 10. I said, okay, well, look at what your brain just calculated. There's a Subway nearby. I have a car. I have a credit card that will work. I know the price of the sub. I know they make subs there. I know that they're open. And I know that I can get it for dinner tonight. I said, what if, I said, can you get Subway and eat it and finish eating it within 5 minutes? 0 to 10. He said, no way. I said, that's most people with their goals. They don't understand, like me building a company, it's the same concept. What if I know exactly how to do it and no one knows that I know how to do it? Because I can't do it in 5 minutes. I can't do it in 5 years.
Time. The only difference is time, huh?
Yes, exactly. And so when I sound arrogant to people, what they don't know is that I'm actually calculating it. It's a formula. Because Kevin would say, like, how did you know we'd succeed? And I said, brother, you can't add that much value to that many people for that long without eventually succeeding. And I've now come to understand it's a lot more than that. Like I have a business star. It's business marketing, sales, client delivery, and community. I think those are the big ones in the 21st century. But ultimately, it's a formula. Everything's a formula. And so you believe 10 out of 10 you can get Subway for dinner. What if I believe 10 out of 10 I can build $1 million company? And what if it's the exact same manifestation equation? What if it's the exact same concept, but you just don't know that I know how to do that? And so Kevin has come around on that, and he said, dude, that's never going to land until after you do it. I said, okay.
What's interesting, though, is I think what you got to do is make a model that applies to all industries, right? It doesn't matter what you're working in. This is a blueprint to whatever you're doing. Here's an example. Go do it.
Well, that's principle-based thinking, which is that business star branding, marketing, sales, client delivery, and community, I actually think does apply to every industry. However, there's business to government, business to business, and business to consumer. And so it depends. But there's nuances, and the way you apply those is different depending on the industry. And I just realized I don't even know how long we've been going, man.
52 minutes. I'm chilling on time.
Okay, nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah, just let me know if you got anything.
No, this is great. I mean, I probably should go in a little while, but I'm really enjoying this conversation. I appreciate it.
Cool. One habit you recommend to anyone wanting to cultivate humility?
So humility is a really, really most important character trait other than self-belief. And ironically, if you have high self-belief, humility is going to be a problem. If you struggle with self-belief, you might think you're more humble than you are. Once you start to believe in yourself, I've seen this time and time again, you might get arrogant quick. Kev's like, it's like a weapon you've never had before. And then you just start shooting it around. You don't know how to use it. But anyways, so if you do have high self-belief and you're very optimistic and future-oriented, you probably lack humility. I struggle with humility. Humility, I think, is having an accurate assessment of one's own importance. And so it's such a weird duality because on one hand, you can change the world. One individual can change the world. It's literally been done.
I love it,
Gandhi,
though.
Steve Jobs.
I love it because at the same time, you're also saying, but no one really needs me here at the same time.
Exactly. That's the duality. And if you don't think in duality, most people don't, you struggle. You think, oh, I'm awesome. And then you're like, oh, I suck. And then, I'm awesome.
It's the idea of, hey, here's an idea that can change the world. Nobody asked for it.
Well, it needs to be what's meaningful work to you. What are you really good at statistically speaking? And then what will people actually pay you for?
I agree.
And if you find the epicenter of those three and then learn how to build a business around it, you really got something. However, I think humility, to answer your original question, it needs to be cultivated. There's two ways to cultivate humility. One is constantly check yourself and self-assess and work really hard to stay as humble as possible and to realize that you are just a speck in the universe. I try to do that a lot. For example, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, that book, and it's a great book for women too. I don't like the title because man, I think most books are too much men, not enough women. But that book is a perspective reset that will humble you. When you think your life's hard, that book will make you realize you're soft. And I think that's important. I really do. I think some of us complain about things that really shouldn't be complained about, honestly. Myself included. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The second way to get humility is to just set really high goals and to try to achieve them. And this is the way to not feel like a big fish in a small pond, which is...
I do that all the time.
Yeah. So that you will get humbled when you try hard things. You just will.
Super fun.
I mean, Emilia and I, we've climbed 6 mountains and we hike all the time, and I'm very, very grateful. And I consider myself fairly athletic. But I'll tell you what, sometimes it's, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You call yourself an athlete? What is the deal, right? So you have to do really hard stuff. We were on a walk around the track with my mom Sunday. We did it on Sunday. And there was these people doing bear crawls around the track, and they were doing burpees all across. Yeah. And we're just sitting there walking our dogs, right? So, and I'm just sitting there going, So they're humble as hell. They were struggle bus. They were suffering. I'm talking pure suffering. One of the dudes, he was going to throw up. And I have respect for it. That will keep you humble. Every time you get arrogant, you need to go do something hard. If you have high self-belief. If you don't have high self-belief, do not do that, because you're just going to crumble your self-belief repeatedly. If you have low self-belief, you need to build it slowly and steadily. Try a half mile, then try a mile, then try a mile and a half. If you have high self-belief and need humility, try to do a marathon on a whim like I did. 3 days notice. Terrible idea. It's just reckless. In the hot sun, 95 degrees, on a track, call it the hot box. First half marathon was easy. The last half was like The Walking Dead. It's
kind of like a humbling survival thing, to
yes.
where your body resets. And then not only that, I'm sure there's a scientific reason, behind it causing new neuropathical paths and thoughts, everything. I'm sure there's
something. Kevin told me that was reckless, and I said, brother, that was good for me. He's like, what do you mean? That's nuts. And I did it dehydrated too, because I was trying to make weight.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit reckless. I said, that was good for me. And he said, why? I said, because I needed that humility. I needed that humble pie. I needed to prove to myself that I could cross the finish line without stopping, but I needed to know how hard things really are. And for someone who's overly optimistic like me, I need that. For someone who's pessimistic, do not do a marathon on a whim. Like, you're just going to crumble your self-esteem. Yeah. And so all of us are trying to get to center. And I said that helped me get to center.
That is crazy. How do you balance decentralization with scaling a company effectively? I'm curious about this one.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm dealing with that right now.
Define decentralization for me in your context.
Just autonomy, community, being left up to their own. Yeah. You want to do what's best for them and what they want to do.
Yeah. I've never been asked that before. Lead by example. Build a company that is compelling enough that people want to be a part of it. I think what people are looking for more than anything, particularly nowadays, is meaning. They want to lead. They want purpose. They want to feel like what they do matters. I have a quote that I've said recently a lot. the person in the arena grinding and growing toward their dreams will always be the envy of the person sitting around feeling sorry for themselves. And I realized I was so wrong about so much, but I realized in the last year or so that I cannot want to inspire someone without ever triggering envy.
Absolutely.
And when I realized that was a big epiphany for me, which is obvious now. But I remember thinking, I don't want anyone to feel bad about themselves, but yet I do want to inspire them, and I do want them to grow towards their potential, and I do want them to get outside their comfort zone. It's like, well, I want to help people grow, but I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. That can't work.
Trust me, I think about that when I'm like, how could I have thousands of followers across social media and then nobody give it, And I know these people, I've known them my whole life, and I'm like, whatever. Like, I guess you think I wouldn't help you, but I would love to if you need me anytime,
I know. That is such an interesting thing too, of how many people watch us from a distance versus engage. It's such a small percentage.
Yeah, and I'm trained to respond to every comment. So if people think that I don't care, it's like, provide something valuable, or what do you really want to know? Tell me something, anything. You're gonna get a response.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and Kevin and I have gotten much better at that lately, because we realized it was grow yourself, grow your podcast, grow your business, and at first it was grow yourself, and it was just anyone who wants self-improvement, we're here, let's do it, and then it was grow the podcast, and it was all about the listener. And then in the last couple of years, it's been just business. I mean, we have overhead, payroll. A lot of people don't understand this. So we're coming up on $500,000 a year. And we've done over $1 million over the course of the company's existence. So technically we have $1 million business, right? And we do. But we have to spend money to make money. And I really have come to understand how few people understand that. Like, if you're going to gross $1 million a year in your own business, you're going to have to spend $700,000 in order to do that. Most likely more.
Yeah, the more ambitious you are, you're not going to have any of it.
I know. And I have a client whose net worth is $2.6 million, anonymously, 6 properties, 11 doors, 16 leases, 29 tenants. And he drives a 2008 truck. Like,
hell yeah.
It's a beater. And he still teaches for extra cash flow. And people are like, well, why don't you just sell one of the houses? And that would be a massively terrible idea, considering the snowball. I don't think people understand that
a liquidation is like a process of tumbling down, huh?
I think most people I've come to understand consider cash on hand in the bank is success. When real success is actually an equation that's far greater than that. It's cash on hand is gas in the tank. It doesn't mean you're driving your dream car, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so he's a math 136 IQ math guy, and he was like, I never once tracked cash on hand. I'm like, I know, me neither. That's the least relevant part of the equation. Now, you do need capital because you'll go out of business without it. So definitely track cash on hand. So don't take that at face value. But most people only look at the bank account. What you need to look at is debt, credit card, interest rates. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I know people that complain about the fact that they're holding cash. They don't want to hold it.
Well, you shouldn't hold too much.
Yeah, they don't want to. Exactly.
Yeah, if you hold too much cash, you're wasting
any
time.
Potential to grow. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you could invest it. And I don't want to turn this into a finance podcast.
For sure.
But if you are curious, I have the 8 fundamentals of finance. I can give them real quick.
Go for it.
Curious? Yeah. Okay, so the first one is gross income. If you're a business, it's gross revenue, but they're the same concept. The second one is total expenses. Whether you're a business or an individual, same deal. Okay, so gross income is total in, before taxes, before fees, before anything. Total in. Then there's total expenses, taxes, fees, rent, everything. And then there's net income or net revenue if you're a business. Net income is gross minus expenses. So if you gross $1 million in your own business, but you have expenses of 700,000, you netted 300,000. And that's what's going to end up in your actual bank account.
Mhm.
Not all at once though, because it's not like a,
Yeah.
oh, we did $1 million in January 1st.
See,
Okay.
that's where that's why I love taxes and all that stuff, because I'm already thinking past that,
You got to.
Yeah.
Future oriented. So then the fourth one is profit margin. Most people don't need to know that one. We're going to skip right past that one. Fifth one is cash on hand. That's the amount in your actual bank account and or in your sock drawer. It's the amount that you have access to now. Okay. Then there's total debts, credit cards, mortgages, and then you've total assets. Anything you own over $1,000 total, and you own it. It's yours, right? You have the ownership. You own the car. Okay. And then, so for example, if you own a home that's worth $550,000 and you have a mortgage that is $500,000, you have a net worth of $50,000, which is above, right? Okay. So the last one is net worth. So the real thing I want to make to land, because I feel obligated to do this. A lot of people see someone like Bezos, Jeff Bezos, they say, who needs $90 billion? He doesn't have $90 billion. He owns 11% of a company that's worth $1 trillion, right? So
yeah.
I think that people think that that's like in his bank account.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I just wish that we were more educated on finance, because most of us are suffering.
As if he could just get rid of it all and sell it and cash out at any moment. Not even
right.
like
It's
that,
Amazon is worth a certain amount in this moment.
Yeah.
And that changes daily. That's the stock market. But I don't think, at the end of the day, just if you educate yourself, you'll be so much better off. And even just the finance I just taught you, I never took a finance course till my master's in business.
And a good way to know that they don't have it in the bank account is why it makes the headlines every time they lose all this amount in one day in the stock. It's because they don't have it in their bank. That's why it's a big deal. You know what I mean?
Right. If Tesla drops 33%, Elon loses $100 billion, right? It's not like he loses that out of his bank account.
Yeah.
I just don't think
Americans are weird though. If that's really how we value people, we're like, oh my gosh, him as a person just down in your value. Like,
I know. Well, that's a whole nother conversation, my friend. Yeah. And I always say there's the social world and the real world, vanity metrics and real metrics. And the real metrics are fulfillment, your intimate relationship, who you are when no one's watching, the actual money in your bank account. And then you've got people driving a Ferrari, but they're actually broke. That's the social status game. And I think that they both have a place, but you really need to put this one first. If you're putting social status above your personal life, you're just headed for divorce and disaster.
Yeah, there's a fine line to teeter there for sure. In terms of like, if you lean too heavily on the other one, it's very easy to be found out.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And then when you are found out, yeah. Yep. I learned that the hard way at 26, and I realized after my car accident that I was living too much in the vanity metrics and too much in the social status and not enough in my real life. Because at the end, that's what's going to matter, is your real life, your actual husband or wife, your actual family, your real life, your real fulfillment, what you did with your time and effort, and the meaningful work that you put into the world, your body of work. I'm really proud of my body of work. Trust me, a lot of the episodes are garbage. But can I look back on my life and say I'm proud of the work I did in the world and I'm proud of the man I became? I think that that's what we all really want.
What's your advice for staying grounded when you achieve major successes?
Okay, this one's nice. I actually have an answer to this one. This is good. I have many answers, but I don't have to search for this one. This one I know. Infinite game versus finite game. So if you study game theory or chaos theory or constraint theory, you realize that most people are thinking finite in an infinite game. What's a good example of this? So a finite game would be one chess match.
Yeah.
an infinite game would be me trying to be the best chess player I can be.
Yeah.
So one of them is, so we're all playing a series of finite games within an infinite game. So this one podcast episode is a finite game, but me becoming the best podcaster that I can be is an infinite game. It's a mountain that gets higher as you climb it. So the answer to that question is, I am playing an infinite game that's unachievable. So whenever I achieve so we have some big months, right? So when Kevin and I make 50 grand, it's very easy to stay humble when, first of all, we have to spend 30 of it just to stay in business. And then on top of that, we're not even close to our true potential. So we're playing an infinite game. For him, that was harder than for me, because that's more money than he ever intended on making. And I know that sounds arrogant, but I said to him, I actually asked him, I said, how were we going to build $1 billion business without a $50,000 a month? Like, did you not think about that? Right? Because he's like, dude, I'll tell you the story real quick.
Before you say that, it's really easy to like give somebody crumbs when you know what they'll settle for. So kudos to you for not changing yourself, you know?
Oh, thank you, brother. I don't know if I understand the compliment.
Like, you can work for somebody that knows that, oh, you're just happy with this amount. That's all well, then I'll just give you that and then just let you live off that. But you don't value people based on what they're willing to settle for. You know what I'm getting at?
Oh, of course. Well, I want everyone to win when we win. But I also want everyone to lose when we don't win. It's, we call it DRI, directly responsible individual. That's a Steve Jobs thing. And we all have our own responsibilities within the company. And as CEO, I'm obviously ultimately responsible. Like, if we fail, it's on us. It's on me, rather. Yeah. If we succeed, it's on us. And if we fail, it's on me. And I think that's a great leadership thing. I do. And that's what I signed up for. But I'll tell this story briefly that I think is potentially powerful for any entrepreneurs out there. And again, if you don't aspire to be an entrepreneur, first of all, don't do it unless you really want to do it. It's terrible, despite what Instagram says. Okay? Genuinely terrible. Mm-hmm. All right. I think it's meaningful, and I was definitely someone who needed to do it. And the alternative weren't going to work for me. So unless you have to do it, do not do it. You ever see Billy Madison where he's like, don't do it. Stay as long as you can. When he's talking about going to high school. Yeah. For the love of God, cherish it. That's how I feel about entrepreneurship, honestly. Despite what everyone's trying to sell you, courses and all that, don't do it unless you have to do it. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right. But I'll tell this story. So Kevin and I, it was the first time we had a really big amount of money put in our bank account. And it's not that big for most business owners, but for a podcaster, this is a big day. 20 grand. Mm-hmm. And we're in the middle of prepping for a recording. And he's like, dude, we just had the money transferred in our bank account. And I didn't even look up. I had a Remarkable back then. It's a digital notebook, and I didn't even look up. And he's like, dude, did you hear me? I said, yeah. And he's like, dude, 20 grand. And I was like, no, I heard you. And he's like, he was miffed. He didn't get it. He's like, dude, why aren't you more like pumped about that? That's like life-changing money. And I said, Kev, I don't take my focus off the thing that made the 20 grand to celebrate the 20 grand. Now, for those people out there who need to celebrate. What I am saying is that it's the inputs that make the difference, not the outputs. 20 grand is great, and I'm proud of us, whatever, okay? I know that the podcast and the quality of it is one of the reasons we were ever able to get to that level. So if you stop doing the thing that got you the thing, you're going to lose the thing.
That's your last 20, bro.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And by the way, I did say this to him too. I said, Kev, if you're pumped about that, I can't wait to see the future for you. Because ultimately, we're still a tiny little company, right? We're only 7 years old. We're like a little toddler just learning to walk.
Yeah.
As a company, as a podcast, we're very successful. As a company, we're tiny. Amazon makes more in a day than we do all year, right? So, but again, he didn't anticipate a lot of this. So I understand the perspectives and all that. And it took a lot of courage for me to even share that, to be honest with you.
I really want to know your answer on this one. What do you think is the most overlooked skill in achieving long-term success?
Grit.
Ooh.
Just who can suffer the most. It's pure suffering. I'll share this tiny story to provide context. My girlfriend, she's an entrepreneur, magnificent, unreal. She is the most hardworking human I've ever met in my life. It's not close. I remember it was 8:00 at night, and I came to her and I turned to her and I said, "Sweetheart, I have a question." And she said, "What's up?" And I said, "How many minutes today have you spent doing something that you actually wanted to do?" She literally turns to me and goes, 0. And I said, "I know." I said, "I think other people get up and like do what they want." And for someone who reverse engineers outcomes, we don't do that. I don't want to work every day. That's what's required to achieve my goals. And there's this part of the brain, AMCC, it's something medial cortex. Apparently the science shows that it gets bigger the more you use it. And Kevin and I just did an episode on this. They've done brain scans of Olympic athletes and this kind of thing. The people who do what they want to do don't have as much willpower as the people who train themselves to do what they don't want to do. Now, my work is meaningful, and I this is a meaningful show right now. But I have to go to the bathroom. I'm tired. It's freaking hot in my office right now. I don't want to be here. I do and I don't. I do and I don't. I woke up this morning tired. So the most underrated skill is grit. If you don't have grit, there's this whole culture of work smart, not hard. I think that's irresponsible, especially for young people. Like, you only work smart after beating your head against the wall. Half the innovations that I've done with Kevin came after massive pain and failure, which came after work ethic. And so it depends how high you want to climb. If you want to climb to level 10 levels of success, you're going to need level 10 grit. If you want level 2 success, you only need level 2 grit. And I don't want to see anyone aspire to level 10 and then not understand the truth of what that actually takes because they saw some Instagram clip about the 3 easy steps.
Man, that's interesting. That's interesting because I feel like I'm kind of in between teetering there because I want to do what I'm doing every day. So it's interesting. Like, because
But you don't want to do everything around it, right?
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's, of course, no matter starting anything new, there's going to be some tedious aspect of it, groundwork, community, gaining support of whatever idea you have. But at the end of the day, like, I'm motivated by knowing that I'm needed, that my ideas are going to be valued. Even if it's not the first person that sees it, it might be 100 people down the road that's like, oh, this is what I was looking for. And that's the grit I think you're talking about.
There's such a beautiful thing there because I don't know. What was the job that you hated the most?
Wow, that's a hard one. Let's say like manual labor, like working receiving or something, right? Like lifting heavy stuff.
Okay. Unconsciously, you are probably comparing what you're doing now to that. And you're very grateful that you are where you are now.
For sure.
And I think that I have this framework called want, love, hate. I want more clients. I love business coaching. I hate falling down the rabbit hole of social media. But if I don't go on social media, I don't get more clients. So everyone I coach has a want, love, hate framework. So for you, if I were your coach, sorry to put the coaching hat on. If I were your coach, I would say want, love, hate. Here's your top 3 goals for Q4. And you want X, Y, Z. What's the thing you hate that you've told yourself a story you shouldn't have to do? That if we spent time there, you'd end up way more successful. So I think that's one of the reasons.
Making thumbnails was the most basic one that came to my mind.
All right, there you go. And the truth is, if you spent time making thumbnails, you'd be way better off. And that's why I said level 10 success. Get rid of this I'm gonna like every day thing. Like, oh, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. No, listen. If you love what you do, you work. It's easier to be gritty doing what you love. But you still need grit. Yeah.
That's a bombshell right there. Because there are people that are like enjoying what they're doing, but don't even know how to express that. Like, you're just working towards something, but you're still doing something that's tedious in the end, right? Everybody is.
Well, it's flow. Flow is the neurochemical cocktail we're all looking for. When I got in flow during this episode, it's been really enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
However, there was a part of me that didn't want to show up today, right? There was a part of me that would rather relax. I'm exhausted. It's been a
That's
tough
me
week.
with every podcast. And then
Yeah,
I'm like, but I've
exactly,
already
exactly.
prepped so much. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And we're glad. You don't know you love something because you always want to do it. You know you love something because you're always glad you did.
Oh my God, dude. Yes. And you know, I want to relate that again because the other day I stayed after a community police class that I'm doing in my community. And I was like, I don't even want to talk to this officer. I don't think he's going to care about what I'm going to say, but actually super resonated, like willing to give me a letter of support for my project. And I was like completely hesitant. Like, I don't want to stay. I don't want to be the last person here and make this conversation, but let's see where it goes, I guess. Another example of doing what you don't want to do, though. It was a conversation.
And imagine if you weren't the type of person who does what they don't want to do because you've told yourself a story you shouldn't have to do what you don't want to do because you ever hear like, just go downstream. Why go where there's resistance? That stuff. That's the opposite.
And just to reiterate, like, how much I really don't like doing that. Like, I'm the type of person who will sit next to you and not say a word the entire time. Like, it's just who I am. And I don't like that about myself, right? Like, you might have to engage with me, but that's just, I can't help it. Like, I mind my own business everywhere I go.
Nice.
Couple more questions and I swear we're done. Okay. How do you ensure your goals are aligned with your values in both business and life?
Constantly check in. Emilia and I, above our kitchen, we have optimize, align, and area. You're really, I am really looking like a weirdo at this point. This is okay. So we have our core values: optimize, align, and erudite. Align is in the center.
What? That is
so
weird.
Optimize.
Right.
Yeah, optimize is an optimal stopping problem. It's Goldilocks. It's too hot or too cold. So, what is the optimal length of this episode? Have we gone over? Have we not? Right. So it all depends on the goal and the context. So optimize. So align is, are we aligned with our core values, which is optimize, align, and core value? Are we doing actions in alignment with what we value and what's meaningful? That's what align means. And then erudite is a word that represents intelligence. And I remember my mom one time, she said, it was kind of in a little bit of a debate. She said, why do you care about intelligence so much? Why isn't it enough to just be nice? And I was still in my 20s, so I was definitely more brash. And I said, that's got to be the dumbest question ever. In my head, I said that. And I said, what's the difference between a smartphone and a dumb phone? Right? The smartphone is more capable. And intelligence is important. And I know that that's not popular. I get it. I know that I'm not popular for saying that. But if you can't strategically think and you can't think in duality and you can't understand complex ideas, you're in so much trouble. I don't want to see you suffer.
Yeah.
So intelligence matters, right? You can't make good decisions without being intelligent. All of us can think of us in high school, right? We made so many dumb choices, myself included. So intelligence matters, and erudite is another word for intelligence.
Yeah, I guess another problem there is that we don't really celebrate political, smart scientists, people, and put them in powerful positions either, like another country would, right? Which doesn't, I think that's why as a society, we don't value it like the way we should, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I would say we do not have the most erudite society, unfortunately. And I actually think erudite is a really beautiful thing. I do. This conversation's been very erudite. It's yeah. I think deeper understanding is the way you make choices. And if you make good choices, you have a higher probability of statistical success. And
for sure,
if you have a higher probability of statistical success, you will have a more meaningful, enjoyable life. And if you have a more meaningful, enjoyable life, you'll be more fulfilled. And fulfilled people don't hurt people. And that's what we need. We need more fulfilled people who feel in control of their own future.
And it's interesting because I always make fun of the word mindset, but that's kind of the purpose of the podcast, right? It's just to make you rethink how you think and function as a whole, to I don't want to say align, reoperate, reconfigure patterns that we're trying to reshape.
Yeah, reprogram your computer, right? Reprogram your mind, reprogram your thinking. And everyone who listened today will either hate me or they'll hopefully have a bigger, better future because they learned something.
What's one belief about success you had to unlearn to reach the next level?
That I could achieve my dreams with my current friend group.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's no way.
Interesting.
There's 3 types of friends. You have the friends that believe in themselves and also believe in you, and they put wind in your sails. There's the type that are neutral. They don't believe in themselves, but they still want to see you win. And they can't put wind in your sails, but they definitely don't take it out. And then there's the crabs in the bucket that genuinely don't be naive. They want to see you fucking lose.
Yo.
And they do. They unconsciously do. They want to intellectually believe that they want to see you win. They don't. It's like when you play a board game and the person doesn't care if they win. They only care that you lose. Those are the people you got to watch out for.
Damn. Wow. That is deep. It's really deep. What does it mean to you to be more than rich?
Health. So I had a lot of coaches and mentors. I'm very grateful. I feel a lot like, I think a good metaphor for some of my mentors and coaches would be Goodwill Hunting. I feel very blessed in that. I've had literally the CEO of $1 billion robotics company was one of my main mentors. He still is. I have a text from him I still haven't gotten back to. I feel very grateful for some of the guidance that I've gotten. One of them was actually a billionaire. And Kevin's like, dude, that's not normal for other people. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just grateful. So why do I say all that? I've witnessed them neglect their health to build their wealth. And I decided after 26 that, and I was neglecting my health. I was drinking too much and too often. I was partying too much. I worked for a company called Cognex. It was work hard, play hard was their motto. I used to say work hard, play harder. And I wasn't holistic. And so being more than, but I was rich. I mean, I was top 1% earner. I had 150 grand in a Vanguard account, making money in the stock market. I had a bunch of Cognex stock too. And I was on my way to wealth because when my stepdad left, I thought wealth was the answer. And it isn't. What is the answer is health. I mean, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health is what wealth is. Because if you don't have that, that's the foundation you build everything else on top of. So I think it's health first. I think it's love, particularly in intimate relationship. And then I think career and success is third and wealth is third. However, I also understand that wealth is the one that comes more naturally to me. So for me, health and relationships were not as easy. And I had to learn those. So to me, being more than rich is being super, super healthy. I'm talking freak athlete level healthy. I'm telling you, I've been wealthy and I've been healthy. Healthy, I would choose 1,000 times out of 1,000. And yeah, I think everyone should aspire to both. I think aspiring to both is great. I intend on both. But I'll tell you what, if I had to choose, I'd choose health every time.
It's so interesting how like wealth can also be that, I don't want to say driver or addiction, but it could be that thing that holds you down as well. Like you're unconsciously now not taking care of your health. So just really cool way to reiterate that. And then the other thing was the question before that, you know, you said friends so quickly. It didn't take you any time to think about it. So I just think that's a little note there, a little nugget for people listening. Whoever's around them that could be bringing them down, draining their energy, or just not contributing the way that they should.
The friends thing, a lot of people are pretending to believe in themselves. And yeah, maybe on some level they want to see you win, but they don't want to see you leave. And in order to win, you have to leave. You have to sail away.
Damn.
Sail away. You have to.
I mean,
and trust me, there's no way I could have gotten to where I am if I didn't sail away.
I love that one because it's in the Bible too.
Is it?
Yeah, just the fact that Jesus had to leave his own town, you know? Like,
oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that is my biggest regret.
Love it.
My biggest regret is I surrounded myself with people who I never should have. And it really did. It caused me a lot of pain and suffering. And I think in some ways they were bad for me, and I think in some ways I was bad for them. People who want to stay where they are and who don't want to reach their potential, I'm going to be a pain in their ass. And honestly, they're going to be a pain in mine. And I just finally have the courage to admit that.
Damn. Yo, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully I can get you on for a part 2. We can talk like more AI and business and go into super detail on what your brain is working on and stuff. That'd be cool.
Joseph, I appreciate it. I started with gratitude. I want to end with gratitude. This was one of the best interviews I've ever had.
Damn.
And I am definitely outside my comfort zone in some of the answers I've given on a public medium. However, I feel like I was able to be myself. And I think that's thanks to you not only respecting and appreciating me and really wanting to know what I actually think rather than doing this with me, which is what a lot of guys do. So I'm really grateful. I really appreciate it. And I would love to come back.
Awesome, dude. Be in touch. Let you know when it's out. I appreciate you. Thank you. Hey, thanks for staying resilient, dude, because it's not easy. I know how it is. Appreciate you.
Man.